Welcome to This Week in UNC Baseball with head coach Scott Forbes. I'm Tommy Ashley. That's Matt Clements. We're sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt as always. And Coach Forbes, I got to ask you straight out the gate.
Yes, sir.
What are you feeding them boys? They went nuts at the plate. I mean,
Man, they did, didn't they?
that was some Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa type home run derby going on in Winston-Salem. Did it surprise you? And I know your answer, but
Yeah.
be honest. Did it?
Yeah, I
Four,
mean,
14 home runs, that's a lot.
that's a lot. And anytime you hit that much, that many home runs, it surprises anybody. I think we all have felt really good about our offense and our power potential. And we have hit home runs, but the Bosch plays pretty straight up. Wake Forest, it plays small. The wind was blowing out. However, our guys hit a lot of those balls. You look at the track, man, you look at the distance, and obviously, there was some wind that picked them up, but they were hit hard. The exit velocity was really good. I feel like our guys are continuing to get stronger, and hitting's contagious. But I feel like we have power throughout the order. And, it takes a while sometimes in this game. You really don't start hitting your stride, hopefully, really until later in the season, but you got to sustain these tough games early. But the more you play, the more the hitters should catch up. So, they impressed me, and I was surprised, but I wasn't surprised from the standpoint of the quality at bats that they had because they're talented kids.
Yeah, I mean, and just watching it, I mean, people talk about that park as a small park, but there were no doubters, most of
Yeah.
those. And so it was an impressive display. How, when you've got a team that's got that power through the order, and I want to ask you about ordering the lineup at some point, but from a pitcher perspective, how calming is that if that's a thing, knowing that, hey, I could make a mistake and give up a home run, but I've got these guys that are going to get a chance to hit again. Does it take pressure off your pitchers? Is that a thing when you've got an offense that powerful?
I think it does. I think the best thing for our pitchers was our fall in our preseason, knowing that they can get, this is a really good lineup. It makes them better having to face the depth. So we had two teams out there this fall in the preseason that were hard to get through because we have some very talented players as well right now that aren't in the lineup. When pitchers know that your team's got a good chance to score, obviously that's a good thing. You look at those teams where, 06, 07, 08, those teams were going to score. That lineup they were deep. And at times you had a guy like a Fedorovich or a Benji Johnson hitting the 8 or 9 hole. Yeah, of course it does. Knowing that if I do happen to give up something because I'm attacking the strike zone, we have a good chance to get it back. And it's easier to pitch with a lead. I mean, that's the facts are the facts.
Coach Forbes, can you talk about how the Diamond Heels prepared for Wake Forest? I mean, for instance, nobody's touched Burns like the Diamond Heels did on Friday. He did strike out 14, but gave up 6 runs. So were y'all able to put him into the machine, have everybody take hacks at his stuff? Or
Yeah, I mean, we went into it not necessarily saying we were going to try to beat Chase Burns, but we were going to try to win the game. We knew that we was, excuse me, the pollen's got me. We knew we would strike out some because this stuff is that good, but we also felt like if we got our A swing off, we weren't in defense mode. We were in the attack mode. Yeah, we would swing and miss some, but we also felt like we could hit some balls hard and hit some doubles and some home runs. And Casey Cook, set the tone right there in the first inning, a 3-2 count. Then that pitch was 99 miles an hour. He was on time. He hit a home run. And then your teammates see like, okay, it's doable. And then we had some other swings of the bat, obviously, in that game. But you prepare for every pitcher, every starting pitcher, now, even like you did back then. But now you do have the eye pitch. You can put them in there. You can try to see it the best you can. You try to make it a little bit harder. But it's hard to make it harder than it was against that guy. I mean, you're talking every pitch, 97 to 100 with command of his off speed. But the compete factor is the key. You have to get in there, and we watch a lot of video too of major leaguers. They're the best, and you see how relaxed they are. You see how hard hitting is, and you see how good these major league pitchers are. The key is to know that they make mistakes too, and you got the bat, and you're on offense for a reason.
Can you talk about what you saw from your starting pitchers at Wake Forest? All 3 of them, kept the team in the game and, competed
Yeah, I mean, Folger set the tone. They were busting his chops. He got us those 5 innings because he hadn't done that in the last couple of times, and I thought he competed really, really well. And again, from the coaching standpoint, we got the sweep, which is awesome. But defensively, we've got some things that we can definitely do better that I felt like would have made it a little bit easier on us. And we'll work on that this week. But Folger threw great. DeCaro, was really good and competitive. Spray gave up a couple home runs, but he was in the zone. His velocity continues to climb, which is going to make his changeup even better. He had some 90s in there, maybe even a 91. So I thought they all really competed. You're not going to be perfect in this league. And for us, every team's different. If you can give us, close to 5 innings with the strength of our bullpen, we feel like we've got a really good chance. And those guys did that.
Coach, you mentioned the things on defense you can do better. Let's talk about that a little bit. You had, I think, 6 errors on the weekend. That Friday night game, I'd be interested to know what you're saying in the dugout when guys are making errors that prolong the game. But how do you address the errors and deal with the errors and have consequences, quote unquote, for the errors, but not mess up team chemistry and team synergy there? Because you're 25-4. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
that's a hell of a start.
Yeah, I mean, there are no consequences. It's just like, okay, we have to practice what we preach and being process oriented. And yesterday's over. Obviously, we're going to work on it, and that's where the coaching comes in. That's why we're called coaches. We got to get these guys out there and take a look at video and see what their feet's like on those balls. The turf normally is easier to field a ground ball. Wake's tough. Turf is a little bit challenging because it's a little bit thinner and the ball bounces late a little bit. But we're big on, if something happens like that in a game, it's gone quick, because chances are pretty good you're going to get another ball and you're going to have to make another big play. And you look at yesterday, it's a great example. To answer your question, though, on the first game, obviously, there wasn't much I could say from the standpoint of routine ground ball to Colby, routine ground ball to Ahmad. Colby has made some errors. Ahmad hadn't made hardly any. And you're just like, and then we walk in some guys. You're like, okay, maybe we can still find a way, and Dalton can reach back and hold this lead. And then afterwards, telling the guys, keeping their confidence up, making sure they understand that, hey, it's gone. Believe in what we're talking about. Flush it completely and make the next play, because you're only as good as your next play. That's the big thing. But there are some things we'll work on to try to improve that. And then yesterday, you get a routine double play. I just told Colby, I said, you're going to get another tough play. And sure enough, in the ninth, Seaver King rolls over a split from Poston, and he comes slow roll, comes hard and makes a charging play and gets it to Parks Harbor in time. And that's a big out, because even though we're up by 4 in the ninth, that Park, it plays like you're up by 1. So you don't want any base runners. So, I'm still extremely confident in those guys, and we'll work hard these next couple of days when we get up at Virginia on Wednesday. Tons of ground balls, tons of work, and try to clean that part up a little bit.
Is it difficult, and I don't want to belabor the point, but it's interesting. Is it difficult knowing that somebody can do it? It's kind of like the yips, maybe, in golf.
Yeah, the throwing part would be, sometimes concerns you the most as a coach. When you miss a ground ball, a lot of times it can be feet. You're not, you're letting the ball play you instead of playing through the ball. I don't see many fielding slumps with a glove. It's usually an adjustment that you have to make when technique. And again, that's where the coaching comes in. More ground balls, certain types of ground balls. It's kind of like Parks Harbor early on at first base, really having trouble going to his right and making that feed to the pitcher. So you're spending more time on the first step. How we're going to correct that, try to get it underhand. It's like Folger Boaz on a bunt, throwing the ball short, getting more reps, knowing what type of arm action you need to throw that ball with, more like a dart instead of a full arm action. So the good thing for me with our infielders is it's been a couple of times where they let the ball play them instead of them being the aggressor. You have to be aggressive on defense. You have to have a routine. And a lot of people forget, what you fight in a situation like that is you have a tendency to talk about it. How can you not make that play? I mean, it was a routine double play with their catcher yesterday that would have pretty much put the game away. But I've learned in all these years coaching, you got to move on fast or your team's not going to move on fast, even though it's eating you alive. And then hopefully, we can recover. But, I think repetition, it works, and more ground balls. And we'll get out there with Colby and A-Man, all of our infielders, and continue to try to get them better.
When you look at that, flip it to the batting order. You sort of had some changes on Sunday, moved Vance down, moved Madera up. How difficult is it, or how easy is it to make switches, like we talked about, when you're going well? I mean, obviously it worked yesterday. You had 6 home runs. What's the thought process, and then is it difficult to make changes like that, sort of midstream, mid-series?
It used to be for the longer you coach, for me at least, it's not difficult at all. When the game's over, for me, that game's over. I move on. I start looking at the next game and what's going to give us the best chance to win that next game, And even if you've won 20 in a row, people are like, oh, why would you change the lineup? Well, if you feel like changing the lineup, is going to give us the best chance to win that game, that's what you need to do. Because what you don't want to do, you have to have the kahunas to do it, because obviously everybody's going to talk about it. But deep down, like, okay, the matchup's better against this starting pitcher for AMAD than it is Gavin to start the game. And we want to put some pressure on them because we've already won 2 games. We got to get Harbor moved up, because he's the hitter. I mean, we know he's one of our best pure hitters, and we don't want him to only come around that many times hitting in the 6 hole. Take a little bit of pressure off Vance, but there are other things that go in those decisions. You can distribute the speed a little bit more. So it's part of it, but it's the part that I enjoy. And when you coach long enough, you don't care what other people say. You want to do what's best for the team, and you just it's like a suicide squeeze, right? You're either the hero or the goat, and you got to be able to live with that.
Well, Coach Forbes, it's a great time to be a baseball fan right now. Opening days come around, and the Tar Heels have, Tar Heels in the pros and all over the minors with Daniel Bard, J.B. Bukauskas, Michael Bush, Zach Gallen, Ryder Ryan, and Jacob Stallings and Trent Thornton all breaking with their teams. Who do you think will be the next Diamond Heel alumni to make a debut in the MLB this season?
Man, that's a great question. Debut?
Mm-hmm.
I think Cooper Criswell, he's in AAA. He'll be back up in there, but it's not his debut.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of guys that are really doing well. That's a put me on the spot question. So I don't want to crown one of our former guys over the others, because I think we got 4 or 5 that have a shot to maybe get a call up this year. And we got to see, Mac won't get called up this year, I don't think, Mac Horvath, but it was cool. He had an off day. He drove to Wake Forest yesterday, sat right behind home plate, and came on the field and visited with our guys. So, I check every morning and check where everybody is. And, I'll kind of take a shot in the dark here. I could see a Kyle Datras finding his way, getting a call up, and that would be really cool.
Yeah, I personally thought Tyler Baum was my candidate. So
yeah, he could do it too. I hope I can be there. I need to call those guys and tell them they need to wait and make the debut when the season's over. You think they can do that?
I doubt it. I think if they get the call, they're going. On a similar note, how do you handle your contact during the season and before the season with family advisors and MLB scouts while the season's going on, and how do you handle all of that communication?
Oh shoot, we want to help our guys. So MLB scouts are welcome here all the time. Coach Howell was working for the White Sox. He handles all the emails out and the communication with our scouts. The other family advisors, I'm not communicating with family advisors. We'll talk. We don't need to talk about that one. I'm very protective of our players. I want them to have a great experience. I want them to enjoy playing the game. I want to take as much pressure off of them as I can. I want the Bosch to be a place where they come and it's the highlight of their day. So, the agent size, the advisors and all that stuff, I just remind our guys, keep your circle small, make sure you have the right people in your ear, and focus on the team and the team's success, and all that stuff will play itself out. But we have great relationships with scouts, general managers, scouting directors, because we want every player on our team to have an opportunity to play professional baseball for sure. So we try to get them in here as much as they want, get them in here early for BP, ground balls, all that type of stuff.
Talking with head coach Scott Forbes of the 25-4 Tar Heels. Scott, when you look at, you got Wake Forest, it was a big road series, you sweep them. Now you've got Virginia up there starting on Thursday going to Saturday. I assume the pitching rotation will stay the same, but how does not having a midweek game sort of alter the structure of the week and of how you get guys work, bullpen guys work, and all that?
Yeah, the one negative this week, there's only one negative to not having that midweek game, and that is, we want some guys to pitch. But when you have that short turnaround, we were the only ACC team, I believe, that didn't play Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If we'd have played Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'd have scheduled a Tuesday game. But we also crammed all these games in early because we played a lot more games than a lot of people because we can't play during exams. So when I looked at the schedule and they moved the Virginia game, I knew we'd have to get right back on the road. Even if we're playing at home, maybe we play Tuesday. But if we play that Tuesday night game, we got to leave Wednesday. Guys got a lot on them academically. So there's no doubt in my mind we did the right thing there. But how we handled that is Coach Gaines and I sat down this morning. He knows who needs to pitch. So we'll get those guys out there, and they'll face some hitters that don't have as many at-bats as the guys that have been playing every day. We'll do live at-bats. We won't put defenders out there and let the pitchers get their work in, let our hitters face them. And we'll just keep trying to get better. It's I think it's a good time. It's a good week for us to maybe not have a midweek game, to recover, our bodies, being in a hotel, being on the bus a little bit, and then turning around and doing it again. But Tommy, here, man, we just try to do the same thing, every single day, and get up the day and have a plan. And, we'll lift, we'll stretch, we'll do some light stuff today. And then, we got that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so we'll be to recover on Sunday before we turn around again and get on a bus and go to Charlotte to play South Carolina.
What is, when you get a series like that against Wake Forest and you have that success, you hear basketball coaches, it's 24-hour rule and all that. How does it work for Scott Forbes? I mean, how much do you personally enjoy seeing these young men play like they can play, compete, and win from your standpoint personally, and how long do you actually enjoy it?
I mean, I'm pretty bad about it, to be honest with you. I mean, everybody loves to win, but my mind's always going to the next game. It's kind of how I've always been natured. I think it's a blessing and a curse sometimes. But that's what it should be, in my opinion, as a coach. That's my job. I enjoy seeing the guys gain confidence, go in there and understand that they can beat anybody, and then to go do it on the road, because it's harder to do it on the road. But we're still not barely at the midway point. So that's my job to explain to the guys, like, we hadn't done anything. We just haven't. And I talked to them yesterday about 2022. Things can flip like that. And what we're trying to do every single day, is just try to get better today and get better tomorrow. And then next day, we'll play Virginia. But of course, the bus ride's always fun with those guys, those young guys. But I explain to them, enjoy it. But for me, I tell them, after you take the shower, it's over. It's just like a loss. So you got to treat it the same. If you get swept on the road, which has happened to us, and it's happened to us on teams that have made it to Omaha, you got to move on and you got to get better. And it's like Nick Saban says, you got that rat poison. You got the good kind and the bad kind. Sometimes people can give you the good rat poison because they can tell you ain't no good and you're not going to win. And then all of a sudden they give you the bad rat poison where they start telling you how good you are and that you're going to win. So that's where the coaching comes in, and keeping these guys focused to get better. It's about us, really. It's not about the other team.
Hey, Coach Forbes, certainly it seems like the Diamond Heels fans came out to support the crowd in Winston-Salem. Can you talk about how important it is to have fans go on the road and get a chance to snap up tickets and get behind the Diamond Heels?
Yeah, I mean, it's vital. Fan support, the right kind of fan support, it helps you win. And the crowd and the energy, there's no doubt about it. I thought it was awesome. It was a packed house, had a ton of Tar Heel fans there. I thought Wake Forest did a really good job with their game day operations and, created that good atmosphere for both teams. And that's what it should be about. I mean, college baseball right now is booming. The crowds are growing. And, with the history and the tradition of Caroilna baseball, I think we should pack this place every single night and that's what we want to do.
And what is the one area of concern that you have right now for the Diamond Heels? The number one thing that you think that you need to work on for the Diamond Heels to achieve their goals?
Oh man, there's a lot of things we need to work on. So it's not one primary area of concern. But it's really those little things in the game of baseball that don't show up in the box score. Getting a bunt down. We got a lucky read yesterday, base running with the ball in the 6 hole, making that right base running read, understanding that you're not always going to get lucky and be safe at third base, not giving extra outs. Somebody wants to lay down a bunt like they did on Friday, getting that out. And continuing to focus on what we preach, and that's the pitching and the defensive side of the ball, because everybody loves what we did, all those home runs, all that exit velocity. But again, you got to win some games 3-1 and make phenomenal plays to win a national championship. You can't do it in any sport. You cannot not play defense at a high level. So that's the main thing. I wouldn't say it's concerning because I like the kids that we have, and I know what their capabilities are, and I think we can play a very high level of defense. But for us to reach our goals, we got to play a higher level altogether defensively.
One more question for you, Coach. It's always fun to talk to you.
Yes, sir.
I asked you last week how much noise or did you hear on the outside, like social media and all that. We discussed that. But how much do you hear as a head coach from the stands? I'm always curious about that. And I know you.
I'm usually here. The coaches, they know how I am. I'm pretty dang locked in. So sometimes it's hard to even have a conversation with me. But when you make a trip sometimes, or you're going to make a pitching change, our dugout, you don't even hear the music when it's really loud as much. You don't hear as much in the dugout. But as soon as I start walking out to make a change, you'll hear all kinds of things, and you're a human being. So they're good. Some of them are bad. But the older I get, when they're bad things, I'm literally in my mind, I can't tell you out loud what I'm thinking in my mind, probably, but it's almost comical, because you're like, it's one thing if it's a 16, 17, 18, not even, younger, but these are grown people saying some of these things. And I'm thinking to myself, man, that's just sad. And you just laugh it off and you try not to even let it get to you, but you hear some stuff for sure. You hear even more on the road. And that's when you really laugh because, that's just part of it. That's what I love about being on the road. You're playing somewhere and you're hated because you're Caroilna, and there are all kinds of things that you hear. And you just walk back in and you're trying to just kill them with kindness.
It's hilarious. A couple things on that regard. First of all, DJ Burns last night against Duke, the cameras caught him yelling back at a Duke fan saying, "Your season's over." Just go home.
Yeah, you want to try to, it's hard as a player. I was a player. I didn't play here. I mean, these guys are so good. But you're competitive as a player. We're all competitive, and that's hard not to, I explained to we talk about humility all the time and arrogance. And, I do not enjoy being around arrogant people. I never have been, and that's how I was raised. But it's hard sometimes when you're getting worn out. And then all of a sudden you're about to win the game and you want to wave bye-bye and but I explained to our guys, hey, look, you watch the best of the best. They did it for such a long time. The Mariano Rivera's, the Derek, whoever it is. You just don't see a lot of that. And I think if you do that over and over and over, you got a big old piece of humble pie coming. It's just a matter of when, because karma will get you as well. So I just try to, you got to rein these guys in. You want to be emotional. you want them to compete, and we let our guys do that. But we don't need any of that stuff, waving bye-bye. And it's hard, though, when you're getting worn out. And I'm sure DJ was getting worn out.
Oh yeah, they were giving it to him, and he's just an awesome kid. But and then we talked about it, and I'm gonna let you go, but we talked about it early in the season when pitchers make a big strikeout and they want to tell your guy what they think of him. Well, Wake Forest guys made big pitches, and they said it to their dugout or they were walking off, so it's a different dynamic. But you're right. I don't see how some of y'all keep your mouth shut when some of the stuff you hear. It's funny. Sad's a good word for it, but
yeah,
being able to bite that tongue is an amazing thing, Scott.
Yeah, it is. That's self-control. It employs. We talk about it as a team. You got to work on it, but the ones that can have it, they end up being the best. It doesn't mean they don't pump their fists. It doesn't mean they don't get excited. But like Dean Smith said, a lion never roars after a kill. You got to act like you've done it before, and you can play the game the right way. And it's like, you hit all these home runs and you got explosions and you got celebrations. And I'm like, I told our guys, I was like, when you hit a home run, how about just running around the bases and getting in the dugout and giving everybody 5 because you expected to do it. Like that's the most confident way to celebrate a home run, in my opinion. So, but it's out there. There's some interesting things for sure, and we'll have to deal with them because other teams are going to do that. And we'll just focus on us. How about that?
Yep. And Virginia will be a fun place to play, I'm sure.
Good team. Another great challenge for us.
Yeah, and so same pitching rotation, Boaz, DeCaro, Sprague.
Yeah, I haven't sat down with Coach Gaines, but none of them were taxed. That was the other thing that we were hoping to do is not have them throw 110, 120 this week. We kind of strategically said, okay, if we can get in that 90 range and then use our bullpen strategically, we're going to have 3 days rest for our bullpen and then 1 day less rest for our arms. So that worked out well for us. We were still able to win. So I'm pretty sure that we'll stay with that. We'll go Boaz Thursday, DeCaro Saturday, and DeCaro Friday, and Sprague on Saturday.
Yeah, well, safe travels to Virginia and Charlottesville, Matt. Always a pleasure to do this with you, and again, always fun to talk to you, Coach Forbes. Sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt and Congruity. Safe travels to Charlottesville.
Y'all have a great week. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir.